Physical media man, physical media man, physical media man. What'd you buy? Was it something good?
What's up, guys? Physical Media Man back here again for another Physical Media Man Monday video. I have my movie reviews from the 31 days of Halloween. Got in 20 movies. Not bad because if you watch the previous video, I was in Arizona and Las Vegas at the beginning of October, so it wasn't until October 9th when I was back home. So gave it a valiant effort, got 4 movies in a couple days in a row, and then didn't get any the next day or two, so that kind of hurt too. So I think I might have been able to do it if I would have got some in those other days. But I also watched a lot of stuff from the library or on streaming services, so unfortunately there's only a few things I'm going to show off here during these reviews. But before I get started, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, leave feedback, do all that good stuff down below. I'll leave the links to my Instagram page, my Physical Media Man Store Instagram page, my Facebook page for the Physical Media Man / Physical Media Man Store, my Facebook page for non-media related items, the Hodgepodge Garage, my email, my eBay, my Letterboxd account, where you should be able to see reviews on these as well. I did do better this month posting those, so yeah. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. First off, before October started, we started season 4 of Stranger Things. If you haven't watched the show, it's one of our favorites. I don't know what took us so long to watch this new season, but it ended up being one of my favorites of the show. There's some new characters that were added. They're older. They're in high school now. And I just really enjoyed the season, so I gave it a full 5 stars. Yeah, one of my favorite shows, and just a really good season. It kind of I don't want to say too much without spoiling anything, but it answers a lot of questions, and kind of it could almost end. Not saying it would end, but it feels like a lot more stuff from previous seasons was fleshed out. So yeah, so that was the first thing I'd say we watched. Next up, I watched Freaky with Vince Vaughn, where he's a serial killer and switches bodies because of some ancient dagger with a college-aged or high school-aged student who's a female. So I heard a lot of good things about this one, and I thought it was going to be better than it was. I don't know if I just had too high expectations, but I'm giving it 2.5 stars. And I think on previous reviews I gave A, B, C, D ratings, but with Letterboxd they do the stars, so that's why they're ranked on a 5-star basis. So 2.5 for Freaky. I thought it was pretty funny. There were some funny parts with Vince Vaughn being a female, but I thought they could have done some more stuff to make that even better than what it was. But yeah, it was okay. And again, I think I might have had too high expectations on that one. Next up, we watched one of my favorites from last year. We got The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. This is so after watching this last year, I was such a big fan, I wanted to try to track down a copy. And not too long after that, Shout Factory did a deal on this. I think it was like $20 or $25, and there's 5 movies in this. I haven't watched any of the other ones yet. But like I said, I really enjoyed The Ghost of Mr. Chicken, and on a repeat visit, it was still just as enjoyable. I'm giving it a 4 stars. He is a newspaper writer who's scared of everything and is put on an assignment to go into a somewhat haunted, spooky old house. And he's afraid of everything, so there's a lot of funny parts, and he's really funny in it. So yeah, like I said, one of my favorites, and I might try to watch that every Halloween from now on. I don't know, but my wife didn't watch it last year, so I wanted to show her that one. She doesn't really get into the scary movie stuff, but thought that one she'd like. So yeah, revisited that. Next up, I watched the newer version of Candyman. It's not a remake. It kind of it acknowledges the previous film or the original film, which I also like. I gave it 3.5 stars. This was one, I think maybe the opposite happened, where I didn't have too high expectations for. I don't know if it people liked it, so I just didn't have high expectations for it for some reason, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was very good. Acting was really good. Story was good. While I was watching it, I thought this kind of had a Jordan Peele feel, and sure enough, when I went to look up trivia and things, I noticed that he was a writer on the film. So it does have some Jordan Peele feel, even though he's not the director. But I thought it was really well done. That one I didn't own, but I definitely plan on going out and purchasing a copy for myself. So yeah, definitely recommend that one. Next up, we watched The House with a Clock in Its Walls. This is another one that I didn't have too high expectations for, and I was pleasantly surprised. Definitely plan on keeping this one. Big fan of Jack Black. I would say that I like Goosebumps better. Kind of a similar movie with him in both of them. Giving it a 3 stars. So he is a warlock, and there's some crazy stuff with the house, and this actor, he is his nephew. He goes to live with him, so yeah, that's a good movie. Next up, we watched Hocus Pocus 2, which I fell asleep on. Ended up watching it the next day and finishing it up. I was just tired. I thought it started out very strong. It's years later from the original movie, which I am a fan of. And yeah, I thought it started out very strong, and then it just kind of lost it and wasn't near as good towards the end, the third part. I gave it a 2 stars. Worth watching if you're a big fan of the film, the first film. I'd probably purchase it if they would release a copy, which I doubt they will. And I don't know if I would ever revisit it, or if I did, it would be very rarely. But we usually watch the original every year, so it was fun to check out this new version. Next up, I watched The Unborn with Brooke Adams. I had this one on Scream Factory Blu-ray. Sold it to a friend of the show and my college professor, Neil. So thanks again, Neil, for purchasing it from me. It was my least favorite that I watched this month. I gave it 1 star, but he's a fan of Brooke Adams, who's the star in it, so he said he was interested and bought it from me. But it follows a couple who's having trouble having a baby, and the husband knows some doctor, and they meet him, and somehow she becomes pregnant, and then while she's pregnant, she starts acting weird, and the pregnancy is affecting her and stuff, and no one was really likable in it. The story was just okay. It just kind of doesn't go anywhere, and there's no one really to interest you, and there's nothing that's really scary, especially for the majority of the film. So I didn't like it, and like I said, I gave it a 1 star. Next up, we watched Maximum Overdrive, which was written and directed by Stephen King. His directorial debut, I believe, and maybe one of the only movies he directed. It does star Emilio Estevez, who I'm a fan of, and also has AC/DC music throughout the film, which is a nice touch. This one was a lot of fun. Not very good film, but something happens, and aliens or something are able to control anything that has a motor or is something you'd plug in. So there's some interesting stuff with that, and a fly just flew in front of my face. It's definitely out there, an 80s movie, and I think when I read trivia that Stephen King was on cocaine during most of it, so it is a fun watch though, so I'll give it a 2.5. Next up, I watched Lake Placid, which follows those flies just buzzing everywhere. I gave it a 2.5. Thought the cast was really good. You got Bill Pullman, Oliver Platt, and some other people in it. And Brendan Gleeson, he plays a sheriff. Bill Pullman is a wildlife guy. And then one of the female leads comes from a museum of some sort. They think there's a crocodile in this lake, and Oliver Platt is a crocodile hunter, or not really to kill, but yeah, I don't know. The CGI didn't age too well. It was quite a bit of fun. It's very comparable to like a Twister or something like that, but the characters are enjoyable, and the story is enjoyable. It's just not quite as good as a Twister type film, so I gave it a 2.5. And like I said, the CGI really didn't age well on that one, but I was glad to watch it. Next up was a revisit for me. I didn't remember liking on the first watch too much. I think I had too high expectations for it. And of course, it's been a few years since I watched it. So we watched this new Scream Factory 4K of John Carpenter's Escape from New York. And I really enjoyed this one on the revisit. I thought the story and the premise were awesome, really original. Kurt Russell's character is awesome. The supporting cast is really good. A lot of familiar faces and other John Carpenter films. I'm trying to get all this stuff and watch all this stuff because a lot of it I really enjoy. So this also has Donald Pleasance, Lee Van Cleef, Isaac Hayes. Just a really good, similar to Mad Max type of story, but somewhat different. I mean, same type of feel, but excuse me. There's it's in the future, and they've made an island in New York, a prison where that's where all the prisoners go throughout the United States, and there's no guards, there's no nothing there. They just are stuck on that island to fend for themselves. And there's a plane crash or something, and the president gets put there, and Kurt Russell is sent in to try to get him out. So really enjoyable film. If you haven't seen this one, definitely recommend checking it out. Yeah. Next up, I watched Monster Squad. Escape from New York, I gave 4 stars. Monster Squad, I'm giving 3.5 stars. I feel like this one is one you almost have to have some nostalgia for to make it even better. But without that, I thought it was still very good. Something happens where there's so much time, and Dracula, the Mummy, Frankenstein, and the werewolf are brought back, and they have so much time to do something in order to stay alive. Otherwise, they're gone for good. And no one believes these kids who see them, or at least see Frankenstein, that's the cause for some of the craziness that's going on in their town. And there's this group of kids that try to stop them. So similar to some other movies, I feel like, but probably done before them. But I liked it quite a bit. It's just a little, I didn't have the nostalgia for it, so I didn't like it as much. Next up, we watched Night Creatures. Friend of the show, Cody, watched the next few with me. So we watched his Scream Factory version. It's also on this Hammer Horror 8 film collection, which I picked up after last Halloween time. I watched The Satanic Rites of Dracula, which is another Hammer horror film that is a Warner Archive release, and I really enjoyed that one, so I went ahead and picked up this Hammer horror set because it was pretty cheap, and I wanted to watch some more Hammer horror. So yeah, we watched this Night Creatures, and it stars Peter Cushing. It's pretty good. I gave it a 3 stars. There's these marsh people, I think is what they call it, and don't really know how to explain that one, but people don't know if these ghosts or marsh creatures are real or not. And then this is like during before 1776 or so, and there's these Navy people that come to this little town or island wherever this takes place, and they think that there's been some stealing and stuff going on, and or they're not getting their fair share of what their like taxes would be or whatever, and so then these marsh creatures or whatever pop up and some stuff happens. I don't want to ruin anything, but it's pretty enjoyable. Definitely recommend that one if you haven't seen it, especially if you're into the Hammer horror type of stuff. Next up, we watched X. This was one that recently came out, so I wanted to see it. He had the physical copy on that one as well, and I wanted to watch it in case I wanted to buy it and try to get the slipcover still. Follows a group of people that are trying to make an adult film, and they rent this cabin on a farm, and some crazy thing happens during that time of the filming and everything, and them staying there. It's got a really Texas Chainsaw Massacre feel, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. Gave it a 3.5 stars. I'd probably try to pick it up. There's also a prequel movie that's come out too, Pearl, which follows one of the characters from X. So I'll probably try to watch that too, but I'm definitely planning on picking up X at some point. Next up, another one from his collection. We watched the 2011 version of Fright Night with Colin Farrell and Anton Yelchin. Enjoyed that one quite a bit too. Big fan of the original, so I was happy to finally sit down and watch the newer version. It's very similar. David Tennant is in it as well. All the same character names and that type of thing, but there's some differences that for this version I think make it a better film, but the original was just more fun in my opinion, so I gave it a 3-star. I'll probably watch it again at some point, but I still prefer the original. Next up, I watched the newer version of Child's Play. This came out in 2019, starring Aubrey Plaza. I didn't really care for this. Mark Hamill voices Chucky, which he was fine. Just Chucky just looks weird and just doesn't have the same feel or story. It's just not near as good as the original. I was glad to have checked it out finally, but I'm giving it a 1.5 stars. Did not really care for that one. And lastly, for ones that I have a copy of here, we watched another John Carpenter 4K. This is Prince of Darkness. I didn't really know anything about this one, but saw it got the 4K release, and I had Escape from New York on 4K and They Live, so went ahead and grabbed this one too. Also starring Donna Pleasance. Also has Victor Wong, who is Grandpa in Three Ninjas, so I was real excited to see him. Great music, like always, with Carpenter. Also has Alice Cooper. I actually said while we were watching it, that kind of looks like Alice Cooper, and then it ended up being him. And I guess one of his props for his concerts was used in this film, actually. I'll just read this because so a group of graduate students and scientists uncover an ancient canister in an abandoned church, which kind of reminded me of Power Rangers with Zod or whatever is just out. Yeah. But when they open it, they inadvertently unleash a strange liquid and an evil force on all humanity. So, different type of film, very well acted, good suspense. Yeah, I recommend this one, and I don't know how often I'll revisit it, but I'm very happy to have this in my Carpenter collection, giving it a 3.5 stars. Next up, we watched the scariest one I think we watched during the month. Early on during watching it, I said, I'm not really scared right now, but this is definitely the scariest movie I've watched so far, and that was The Black Phone with Ethan Hawke, who plays the grabber who grabs and abducts kids, and it follows one of the main, or a high school aged student who gets abducted early on in the film and him trying to get out. But I had goosebumps a lot of this film. Ethan Hawke's pretty creepy, and just the realness of the film and the scary aspects of it just really scared me, and I thought it was really well done, so I'm giving it a 4 stars. Next up, we watched The Private Eyes, which one of you guys suggested I check out when I did my movies I want to watch this October. So thanks again to you for suggesting it. I did enjoy what I watched. This was another one that we got tired, and then friend of the show Cody, we didn't end up getting to finish it. So definitely plan on doing that here soon. But it's kind of similar to The Ghost of Mr. Chicken, where Don Knotts plays a Sherlock Holmes type character, and then I can't remember the other actor, but he's famous as well, and he plays basically Dr. Watson. And they try to solve something that's going on at the Biltmore mansion in real life, but just some estate in the film. So I've been to the Biltmore, so it was really neat to see some of that while we watched it. I think we were maybe halfway in, so I'm not going to give a score on it, but I enjoyed what I watched. Next up, I watched Spiral from the Book of Saw, starring Chris Rock, as well as Samuel L. Jackson. There are some other familiar faces in it. It's after all the Saw movies. I haven't seen Jigsaw yet, which I forgot I hadn't watched. And of course doesn't have some of the characters from the earlier Saws, but because it's years later and everything. But I thought this was pretty well done. Some of the kills were good and everything, and the story was good, and it wasn't like one of the best ones, but it was better than some of the last ones from what I remember. So I gave it 3 stars, and I definitely plan on picking it up for my Saw collection at some point. And then lastly, I watched The Stuff. I don't remember what score I gave it. Excuse me. But this was one that I always heard good things, and I was always intrigued by it and wanted to get the Arrow video release and never did. But I thought this was pretty good. Not as good as I hoped. I can't remember what score I gave it, like I said. I just didn't think The Stuff was as scary as I hoped. But it is really cool type concept and made the movie enjoyable, and it would be a cool thing to get for a movie room or thing to collect if you're a big fan of the film. So yeah, that's everything. All 20 titles that I watched from Halloween and the 31 days of Halloween. My favorites this year were Stranger Things Season 4, Ghost of Mr. Chicken, the newer version of Candyman, Escape from New York, X, and then The Black Phone. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this. I've had a lot of fun the last couple years taking part in this. This isn't my favorite genre, but I really enjoy every October trying to watch as many as I can, especially because I haven't seen a lot of stuff. So basically, let's see here. Most of these were all first-time watches for me. The only ones that weren't were The Ghost of Mr. Chicken, Escape from New York, and that's it. So, yeah. If you have any recommendations or anything I should try to see next time, just let me know. Hope you enjoyed this. This is Physical Media Man signing off. Physical Media will never die. Physical Media Man. Physical Media Man. Physical Media Man.